Right, there we go. We live. Mr. ShillyBoy Mothiba. How are you?
Yes. I'm good, man, LeRoy. How are you doing? Good morning. Good
Good, man.
morning.
Good, man. Healthy and well. Healthy and well. Yeah, things are going well. Just we had a bit of cable theft. Then Vodacom was off, and we've got a funeral tomorrow, so it's a bit of an awkward week. But otherwise, things are going well. Your side?
I'm good. Yeah, I can't complain. The weather looks better outside today. Yeah, I see that it's not cloudy, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Maybe I'll go to the beach and just take some walk.
Come brag here. Yeah, you locked down Bloberg, eh? You said Bloberg.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
hey,
And
hey,
so
hey, hey,
yeah,
hey,
so
hey. So enjoy. We'll be in the cold
thanks.
box of Bloberg. So, ShillyBoy, I'm
Yeah,
excited.
thanks,
Thanks for
man.
joining me today. Today, we want to talk about ShillyBoy says tax is supposed to make you money, not take your money. Now,
Oh
we're going to hear
wow.
explain this to us, right? I see we got a few people logging on here. Tax is supposed to make money, not take your money.
Correct.
He's going to explain that to us, what he says. So what do we want to chat about today is maybe tell us how you can save tax, maybe what structures, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an employee, what will be the best structure to be in if you want to be tax efficient, if you want to save taxes, if you want to avoid tax, not evade tax. So that's the right words to use there. Hey, ShillyBoy,
Yeah, you,
avoid
you
tax.
don't want to evade. Yeah, and it's a very interesting thing because I was actually reading one of the quote from one of the judges, and he was basically indicating that actually there's nothing impermissible about actually one arranging their own affairs in such a way that they try to avoid tax. Of course, as long as you don't obviously cross the line and you end up evading tax, which I personally also will not be happy with you once you start bridging that gap and you're going into the wrong side of the law. But I mean, it's the court of law has found that. I mean, many judges have articulated and attested to that to say nothing wrong with you arranging your affairs in such a way that you actually reduce your tax basis. And I think we'll deliberate more and more about that. And I mean, a classical example where people get it wrong. And it's one of the funny things that I keep seeing every day when I speak to people, just poorly record keeping. People end up overpaying tax, just poor administrative duties. You just not execute. But we'll share more detail. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, guys, I've never met anyone more passionate about tax. Eh? And talk about that. Not I almost said Donald Trump. Robert Kiyosaki and Tom Wheelwright. He says they say the quickest way to make more money is to reduce your taxes.
And I think let me give you an example what he might be also referring to. Ne? And we might be speaking to property investors, we might be speaking to business people right now. And yesterday, funny enough, one maybe this is a fresh case scenario. This individual approached me and say, listen, I've got a property in my personal name. I want to move it over, right? I want to move it over and then realize equity. And for those who are in a property investment, even for that matter, for those who are in business, will understand what we mean by equity, just by virtue of the difference between market value and what is owed in that property, right? So this person want to realize that, and then because they want to move this product, the mistake number one that this person did, and I'm going back to what you were saying about Robert Kiyosaki, and to say you need to reduce your taxes. The another way of getting richer.
Mm.
So this person did not keep the records of the improvements that she has done in that particular property. Can you see that this person does not loses that constitutional rights to actually reduce the tax because
Yes.
she doesn't. I mean, she spent like over 100,000, but she doesn't have invoices, doesn't have a proof of payments. How
Hey,
are you going to claim that from SARS? Can you
I,
see? Are you gonna blame SARS in that
no,
case?
you can't. You can't.
You can't because and then this is where people then get frustrated, and then when they have to pay more, they're like, "But why am I paying more?" But it's your responsibility. You know what I mean? And I think this is where and this is where now there's that conflict, and we like shifting things, our responsibilities. It's a human nature, it's a natural thing. And another thing, and I think this has to do with not having a power team around yourself. Whether you're a business person, whether you're a high net worth professional in a corporate world, you still need to build a power team. As long as you're creating wealth, you need to build a power team. The reason why I'm saying that, so this individual, and it happened that they've got a property that was a primary residence, and then they later on changed it, and then they created a multi-let. You'll know this better.
Yeah.
So they partitioned it, and then all these things, and then they created a multi-let, and then they moved out.
Right? And it was still in their personal name.
Yes, they moved out, and then they went to another property. So now they didn't know that now there's a change of usage, because the moment there's a change of usage, should they sell that particular property, they need to apportion between the years that it was primary residence, and then they need to apportion also the year that is now an investment property. And that means that that benefit of exclusion of disregarding that capital gain of primary residence, then what happens? It's getting reduced, being reduced the more years you're making that property an investment property, which they could have actually transferred this property. They decide that, listen, I want this to move out of as a primary residence. They could have moved it. But you see, that's purely for not having a power team around themselves. Are you gonna blame SARS?
No, and I think it's key what you're saying there, ShillyBoy. I think it's firstly the knowledge, then is get a good, you know what, people I've met with people that they try to save money by not getting a good accountant, a good tax expert, and they actually lose money. So they don't have the knowledge, they don't want to pay for an expert for it. And the administration, right? Because I know my administration was also not the greatest. But luckily I've got an accountant who's administrative, who's better than what I am. So I think that's key there. But I think, ShillyBoy, we jumped right into it, eh? But tax is actually, it's a you know what, Albert Einstein, I read a quote, he said the most difficult things to understand in the world is income tax. And if Albert Einstein says that, then who are we? So maybe tell us, ShillyBoy, why you became a chartered accountant and why you decided to specialize in tax.
Do you want to know the truth? I became a chartered accountant. Funny enough, I've tried many things. From the high school and primary, I've always wanted to go into arts, and that's a fun. Yeah. Maybe that's why I get performance when I'm on stage.
Oh, okay. Now we see where the performance arts where it comes.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of I don't know. It's not like those amateurs acting and stage, whatever, back in the days when I was in the villages and growing up. Then when I got to university in my first year at Vets, I actually wanted to swap from doing BCom, and then I wanted to go and do BA art. And then when I got back to my flat, one of my best friends, he's still my best friend even now, I think 20 years later. And he was like, "What? You want to do what? Art?" He was then a third year BCom accounting student. So he was closer. He could smell the money of being a CA. He's a CA now. So he could smell the money. He's like, listen to me. If you don't like this thing, just do it for the money. So that's kind of very interesting. I was a first year. I guess I was also just frustrated by being a first year.
And you know what, I'm laughing. As Black people, we don't know about, our parents and our people don't know about arts and stuff. And art, what are you going to draw? You want to act? You want to sing? What is that? That's not a job.
He couldn't understand it. And finding out, there was another friend of ours, and he was into this guitar thing. He was also doing a third year BArc, which call it Bachelor of Accountancy. So back then at Wits University. So he was also in a third year. So and when he was there, and he liked the kita, and he had a like the arty hippie hair. And my friend is like, you wanna look like him? You wanna look like him? So it's like, just go and study, man. I was frustrated. First year is not easy, and especially coming from the villages, it was never easy. So it's like, do you wanna look like him? Just go and study. Anyway, the rest was history. Then I managed to actually just listen to him and stop the whole thing of wanting to be in art.
So are you happy now? Are you happy, or do you regret it?
No. I think what I've done over the years was try to balance my love for performing, because an art is, you can have an art in your profession. It's how you speak, it's how you talk about text. You can have an element of art within that. Art is it's in every profession. So I'm still able to have that element and that component of art in me. So it's still showing. You can have funny things and make people not sleep when you're speaking about your subject.
And I've heard you speak, and I was like, wow, this is, because tax is actually a boring subject. It's a deep note for look.
It's actually interesting. It's not boring.
It's an interesting one, but it's complicated for a lot of people, and a lot of people make it sound more complicated than what it sometimes is. And I think governments make it so complicated on purpose, so we don't understand it, so they can take our money.
Wow. Okay. So I think for me it's not an issue of being boring. And I think it's a matter of emotions. And I already say this. When you speak to someone, when you think of SARS, when you think of tax, what emotions comes out? Right? So now those emotions already make us be more biased in how we interact with it. And we miss that opportunity to understand the fun part of a thing, because we're already biased. The moment you go into something biased, no matter you're hardliner.
You've already made up your mind. You're not objective. Done. I hate SARS is there to steal my money. Politicians are there to take my money. It's done.
Thank you. And it's a very funny thing that you are saying, because I'm currently doing my international tax, and one of the things that we were discussing was around the whole global emotions or global perception, that for those, and there's an anger, there's a gap between the less privileged and then the privileged ones, where the privileged ones, because they embrace tax, they end up not paying a lot of tax, right? And then as a result, there's an anger from there, whether it's analysts, whether it's a civil society, whether it's labor, all the stakeholders of society, right? Then there's that anger where now the so-called the top 1%, they're now being seen, by virtue of them not paying tax, they're being seen now as more corrupt. There's that perception. When if you read in the news and they say so and so paid 0 tax, what do you do? Then people you already have an anger.
People get upset, right? You paid less tax, and now they saying capitalism doesn't work. People want socialism because the rich are just smarter. They have better advisors. They have ShillyBoy in them.
but I think that's where, and if you look at from the company that I'm from, which, if I'm allowed to mention it,
I think we jumped into it. We didn't even that you work for KPGM, that you're the co-founder of Intergen, that your property. I've got that, but I think we jumped straight into.
They can always read about it. It's fun. Let's have fun. Let's talk to them. And I think what I was saying, before I got distracted, as usual, I always digress because I love the art around it. And I think it's also about how do we make tax more accessible to an average Joe. And it's on the same principle that governs the justice, to say how to make the courts and the legal fraternity more accessible to an average Joe, right? That's the concept of justice. That's why you've got the lawyers that are sponsored by government, right?
Yeah.
So and I think for us we took the same principle to say, but how do you make tax planning more accessible to an average Joe? That guy with two multi-let, that guy with a small business.
Yeah.
You understand, that guy who might have built a sole proprietor. We've got a lot of guys who are successful with companies, with businesses that now they are run as sole proprietor. And I'm glad that these days people are actually moving more and more into companies, because that's what it does. It creates an orderly succession, right? So
especially in townships, like you say, you're from the homelands, you're from townships. There's a lot of guys making a lot of money with informal businesses, taxis, shops, whatever it is, and they pay a lot of, or they don't pay tax, and then SARS comes after 3-4 years and says you owe us 700,000 rand.
Exactly. But and it's ignorance. Apparently, ignorance is not an excuse enough. So, but then how do we then educate? How do we bring that to an average Joe who's making that kind of money, to say, listen, it's not supposed to be doing 1, 2, 3. You understand? And that's how you can actually end up preserving wealth. So I think for me, it's about justice, to say, how do we do that?
No, thanks, ShillyBoy. You know what? I did some research and I saw that the first. Did you know that the first taxes were in Egypt?
Interesting. I don't even know that. I learn every day.
And they taxed 1/5 of your harvest in grain.
Oh, wow.
You would send these collectors, and they would take 1/5 in grain, and then I checked. The first income tax was in, I think, 1864, where they brought it in because for war. They started taxing rich people to fund wars, and it was going to be temporary. So tax was going to be, once the war is finished, then the taxes would stop. And then the government saw how nice it was to get that income, and then the war was finished, and then they didn't only tax rich people, then they started taxing everyone. And that's how it was supposed to stop after the war, but it never stopped.
That's very interesting. Look, I'll be lying. That's a very interesting side of history. But the thing is, tax also changes. I always say it's a chameleon, because it changes nature. It changes. Tomorrow we might be speaking about this and this tax, and then it changes. Tomorrow it's repealed, and then there's something else the following day. So maybe that's also part of the history, because there was a quote where they were saying that since Jesus started walking, people always avoided paying tax, because then maybe it was not named an income tax, but it was like an offering to Jesus walking. I don't know. Look, don't crush me. I'm just quoting them. I'm just quoting the what I've read, and I think that's I'm a rather not quoting, but just chicken then there. So I think for me, it's about that. Like, and people have always been trying to avoid to pay tax since then. So it's a historical thing, and like they say, it's more certain than tax and death. But you can actually use this to grow. You can use it to and actually embrace the compound effect method. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that ShillyBoy, where you say, and a statement I heard you speak, that you said that, and I've heard it before from Tom Wheelwright too, that says tax is not there to, tax can make you money. It's not there to take your money. If you do the right thing, and if you do what the government, if you comply what they want you to do. To get into that, because firstly, I didn't understand it now, so now I do slightly, and a lot of people don't get it when people say that tax is not really there, that you can make money from tax. It's not always there just to take your money.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, guys. I think we need to ask our question: why do we have tax? Right? Let's start there. Secondly, you mentioned that if you comply, the best way to actually even sort of pay reasonable tax, it's what? It's comply. It's as simple as that. Comply. You pay. Most people actually end up paying unnecessarily because they don't comply. If you don't comply, you are going to pay unnecessarily tax, right? And we gave those examples earlier on. But let's go back to this notion of making money. And I'm gonna bring it back home to you. You are in a inner city development, and being in that space, remember the one of the primary reasons why we've got taxes is so that there's a revenue collection, so that there's the sort of a shared services are able to be funded. That's ultimately why we are just doing our pieces based on in proportion to the legislation. Because otherwise, if we were to say how much LeRoy with his money in the inner city has to contribute, then LeRoy will want to contribute 1 cent, all those things. But tax legislation helps us to contribute in proportion based on the legislation. Yeah, that's fine. That's more technical. Now, let's go back to what you were saying, that how do you even make money using tax? Let's look at the section that you are in an inner city development doing, urban development zone. Is it not helping to make money?
I'm making money, eh? I probably won't pay tax for the next 10 years or so. For a long time.
There we go. I mean, guys, here's the thing. Here's LeRoy. I mean, LeRoy, you are the classical example on how tax can make you money. So I think we answered the question because you've got a that, and I think you need to share experience around that. I don't know, but that's one thing. Then the second part, I mean, and we're just gonna give practical examples that people can relate to. And one of the unfortunately came to an end at the end of June, the Section 12J. Do you know how people got refund? You put in $1 million, you got a refund of 450,000, and then
investment of $1 million.
Yeah, and you've got investment of $1 million.
Half of your money back.
Yeah, exactly. And when you cash in, that money gets taxed at capital gain. So which means effectively you're subsidized for your investment. People make money. Are you gonna blame SARS?
And so you're talking, and just for some people that say the UDZ, that's the urban development zone. So basically what SARS is saying, there's a shortage of housing in these inner cities, and if you help them if you help the government create housing, they give you tax incentives. For someone who doesn't know what, basically that's a summarized version of what that means. So
and there's a lot of them. Remember, there's also Section 13 sex. If you recall, I mean, you probably as a developer you'll know this, where if you invest in specific type of residential units, then you get those deductions, right? And there's where, like what you're saying, there's a less of units, social housing. And if you go and you build what you call low cost housing, and then obviously rent it out, provided you meet those obviously criteria, then you'll get additional 5%. Is it not helping making money? So which means that if you invested, let's say 100 rand, then you've got a deduction of 10% of 100 rand, right? That's about 10 years. So 10% every year. So it means you'll depreciate this in over 10 years. So over 10 years, SARS kind of finance you 10%, but then obviously the net effect of that, of tax, 28% of that. So you are getting that back, right? So that's pretty much, to me, I don't know how else can you make money if that is not making money, because then you can take that refund, that 28% that you are getting back, instead of paying to SARS, but then you are retaining it. You can actually take that and reinvest it. Then there's an issue of compound effect. Like Albert Einstein always said, one of the wonders of the world is the compound effect. So then it means that compound effect to say, it's up to you now to then do what? Take that refund of 28% and then reinvest it in another project. Maybe join LeRoy in another project.
Yes, that's a good one there, ShillyBoy. Say that again.
I'm saying, look, the thing is, making money has to do with knowing people like LeRoy, and I mean, that's a reality, and you need to network, and then take that money that you saved, that money that you got refund as a result of having invested. I mean, think about it, LeRoy, for someone who got a refund for having invested in Section 12J, can't you take that 400,000 and then do compound effect?
And just push it back.
Are you with me? So,
Yeah.
I mean, you take it and you go and partner with LeRoy. I know he's doing an amazing project. I must congratulate you, by the way. You're doing an amazing project in Boxback. So, you're doing well for East Rand. So, why not partner with LeRoy? And I think that's you take that money, you pump it in, then there's a combat effect. So you can be, that's why they say the richer get richer, but it's because you use the knowledge and you use people like LeRoy to make more money.
Thank you, ShillyBoy. Thank you for that. I didn't want to say it, but I'm glad you said. So basically what ShillyBoy is saying, if you've got money, 100,000, a million, 10 million, contact us. Let's look at these projects and let's use your money as compounding effect, and you can buy these projects and invest in these. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. I just thought let me throw that one in.
Now, no, but the thing is, you've got a credibility. I mean, you have done it. You know, you have been in the space, and you've been one of those who don't be shy to talk about it, because you have been one of those guys who have been consistent about one thing. And I'm a big fan of someone, a specialist. There's nothing wrong with multiple streams of income, but I believe in betting on a jockey that has been consistent, being riding a horse, right? Rather than a jockey that tomorrow is playing golf. I always get worried about people like that, especially how complicated the world of economy is, right? It requires one to amass that's such a high level of information. In every sector, there's a high level. Things are moving at a very speedy rate. So yeah, a jockey like you, why not pump money into that jockey and make sure that this jockey excels? Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, man, for that. But I think so that's the way. So basically what we summarize was that is find out what the government wants you to do and start partnering with the government. That's a good word, partnering. Partnering with the government, and get yourself an expert like ShillyBoy. He'll give you all his contact details by the end of this, so you can contact him and make sure that you understand, because it's complicated. Like you say, for me to really understand everything about tax is gonna take me. Now, how long did it take you?
Jeez, man, you first have to do 4-year degree and then write a couple of board exams. I mean, it depends on which route you took. But my route was a CA route. Now I'm still studying for the next 2 years of the study, doing my international. So I want you to start moving your money to offshore and start telling about loop structures where you move your money offshore, then you bring the money back into the country. So
that's something that you must come share with us as well. Is maybe why you want to take your money offshore and how to do it if they are people.
Look, there's a saying that the world is a village. Because of globalization, the world is becoming a village, which means that the world is too small, right? You can wake up today. I mean, it's very funny. Yesterday, I was speaking to someone who's in Abu Dhabi. During the last week, I was speaking to someone who was in Belgium. And in those previous, our grandparents' days, you just couldn't comprehend.
It's impossible.
That it just looked so beyond. So can you see that it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller? Who knows? Tomorrow we might wake up and it might end up taking us 1 hour to get to America. Don't say it's not possible. It can happen. You understand where I'm coming? So the world is becoming smaller and smaller, and in such a way that it's going to make it much easier for you guys to start earning in hard currencies. So, and I'm answering a question. I know I take forever to answer a question, but because I'm very passionate. So it might take you might want to start earning money in hard currencies, right? And also, it might also be has to do with your kids, your generations, giving them freedom of movement. You might be a Boxback guy, but
Yeah.
your kids might say, "Listen, Dad, I want to go and try in Australia." You know what I mean? Like, and others might say, "Listen, I want to go to US. I want to go to Ireland." You know, all those. You want to give your kids a freedom of movement, right?
Mm.
So that because wealth in when you're creating wealth, whether you're an entrepreneur in mining, coal, it doesn't matter. The more you create wealth, the more that gives you a freedom, and
Mm.
within a freedom, it also gives you that. Not to say we don't have a freedom when you don't have money, but you exercise actually. Let me rather use the word you exercise your constitutional right of freedom of movement, right? Money makes you able to do that. So you also want to pass on that to your kids, and I think also is issue of hedging, and we like using that finance terms to say you want to hedge. What are you hedging against? It might be political instability. It might be currency issue. You know what I mean? So you want to hedge around many things, and you want to have a freedom of buying uh, business ventures in other parts of the world. And for that matter, it might also be less tax rate. I mean, for instance, in Ireland is about in corporate income tax rate is about 12.5%. Why would you want to not invest in Ireland? So there's many reasons, and it's gonna be one reason from differing from another person, basically.
But that's so true, ShillyBoy. I know, and this is good that we start opening up our minds to that the world is big, man. It's not just
Mm, mm, mm,
Boksburg,
mm.
Joburg, Cape Town, South
Yeah,
Africa. I remember when I started, and Andrew and them were investing in the UK, and I couldn't see it. The UK was so
yeah,
small. They were
yeah.
like,
It's like this,
UK.
man.
I'm like, dude, no, man, it's the UK. I need to
Yeah,
fly
yeah,
to see. How am I gonna? I just couldn't see it. I was
yeah,
my thinking was very small, and what I was exposed to was also not
yeah.
that broad.
You
But
just
now,
wanted to, yeah,
yeah, now
yeah.
when you're around these guys doing a chili boy and them talking about you can invest anywhere in the world, Andrew and them and Dave and them and all these guys investing internationally, it starts
Mm,
opening up your eyes to see, wow, there's more, there's bigger things,
mm.
there's a bigger
Exactly,
world out there.
exactly.
Chili
So
boy,
yeah, so yeah, yeah. Go on.
go for it, sorry.
No, no, no. I was just saying it's the whole mobility. And I mean, when you're speaking about that, this is a high level of mobility. And I mean, this week, was it this week or last week? One of the guys I know within our clients, and I mean, he's a doctor. He's moving. He's moving to Ireland. He's just waiting for visa. So,
Mm.
and then now the question is, how do we service him from being a non-resident now, from tax point of view? So, so one needs to understand that. And by the way, moving around and having a high level of mobility has nothing to do with money. Sometimes professionals these days are moving. You know what I mean? Like I say, yesterday I was speaking to someone in Abu Dhabi. She's just
Mm.
merely some. She's in the what do you call this thing? Paramedic, yeah, the paramedics guys, right?
Mm.
She moved to Abu Dhabi, and you know what I mean. So, and it has nothing to do with your balance sheet. So, but then understanding that you can actually do that, even from exchange control regulations point of view, which is something that you, if you want to be dealing with international tax and tax planning, you still need to understand how Reserve Bank sees you. How much can you actually move out of the country
Yes.
without hassle, all those type of things. So those things are very important I mean, it's an encouragement. Go and earn hard currencies and bring money back into the country and revitalize the economy.
Yeah, I mean, man, that's good. Chili boy, maybe before we get into, because what I want to do now is maybe just go into what advice would you give an entrepreneur and what advice you want to give an employee, right? People are doing different things. Some people are investing
Yeah,
in property. Some people, I don't think we have enough time to go into maybe, and there's no one size fits all, right? You need to look
yeah,
at the
yeah,
individual, what their goals, what they want to
yeah.
achieve. So maybe just look at that. But first, we want to go into what all do we get taxed on? Because I'm not sure everyone. I know there's a million things we get taxed on, right?
Mm.
There's income tax, there's petrol, there's sugar, there's maybe if we can just so we give people an idea of where they paying tax, because I'm starting to look at tax differently. But the way I did look at it, I looked at SARS as SARS. What SARS does is it punishes productive people and it incentivizes unproductive people. Because the more you earn, the more productive you are, the more tax you pay, right?
I'm very,
That's
I'm
how
very.
that's how I looked at it initially, to say that if you make a lot of money, let's say you get a job, you pay 45%, right? The less money you make, the less tax you pay. And then obviously this money goes out to grants and people getting children and what out there. So that's how I looked at it for a while, to say that that's to punish productive people to incentivize unproductive. That's how, but now you have changed my mindset, how I'm thinking about it, now that I'm educating myself more. What are all the things that we get taxed on?
Okay, maybe let's do away with you know weights are very powerful.
Yeah.
So I wanna do away with punish, because I don't think it's an intention of of SARS to punish anyone. It's not their mandate, and I'm not speaking for them, but I just feel that we need to do it.
You say I'm saying it wrong there.
I think let's look at and I think it's like but and I'm not even really, honestly speaking, I'm not picking on you, and I think it's a matter of I understand where the sentiment is coming from, and that's exactly what you said earlier. There's emotions around every
Yes.
time when someone think when how much they're paying. You know, everyone wish they could not be paying anything, but where will you be driving on? So you know, and which hospital will? Because you might be having a private hospital, but it's subsidized one way or another, right? So yeah, so that's one thing. But then to answer your question, let's look at how tax legislations and get developed. There's a there's a department called Department of Finance, right? Underneath that, and then we also have what we call National Treasury. You probably have heard
Yeah.
where the Minister of Finance, our favorite Itombo and Mr. Tim. Hey, let me keep quiet. Anyway, so yeah, so and that's where that's where everything gets developed, policy development and all those things around tax, exchange control regulations, and all. And then they delegate other powers to Reserve Bank, and then after that, once they develop certain tax legislation, and they negotiate agreements, tax treaties. We call them tax treaties. How a cross-border transaction get taxed, right? And then once that is obviously negotiated, obviously it goes within the approval processes, parliament and executive. We call them the cabinet and parliament then approve, and then from there the president's rubber stamp and everything, and then it gets brought into the legislation, right? Then the role of SARS is interpretation. SARS interpret.
Okay.
SARS interpret, and that's why I always say, why are you blaming SARS? Because SARS is a messenger, if you think about it. So and this is where I always have an issue with not even having issue. I don't like having issue with people, but this is where I always say, listen, before things become a law, they actually get publicized. You know, there's public comment. You know, comment, write, register your heart feelings, and also it might not be on individual capacity. It might be through your association. You might be a professional at engineering. You go to EXA and say, these are issues that we're experiencing as engineers. We're not happy with. Because AXA is a stakeholder in the greater scheme of things. So National Treasury will listen to them, right? You understand? In America, they like saying there's lobby groups. In American politics, they can actually. It's very funny that you get hired to lobby White House. And well, in Africa, once you start saying I'm a lobbyist, then there's a connotation of fraud,
Yeah,
corruption.
right.
It's stigmatized like, yeah, it's stigmatized like that. And I think we need to get to the point where we actually do away with such stigma and we allow lobbyists to actually lobby freely, because lobbyists actually can actually end up acting in the best interest of citizens. Because if these associations they become lobbyists, then we might end up seeing, of course, you might want certain legislations that actually majority of people don't see the same way. So, and you also need to accept that majority has to rule. But then a majority will prevail if we participate in such, right? And it's not, I'm not saying someone must wake up and write a huge document. No, just one line email. You're not happy with 1, 2, 3. Send it to your industry body, right?
Mm.
In my civil engineering, there are civil engineering bodies.
Does that work? Is that impactful? If you, let's say, who would the property body be? Who would we write to?
It's Sapoa. The Sapoa, they're very influential. Sapoa is there. Yeah.
If I write a letter to them, they will look at it, they'll talk about it, they'll discuss it.
They actually, by the time you even write it there, they're already aware. If there's something that is affecting their members, they already know. That's why they're lobbying for. I mean, like, I'll give an example. There's an association for Section 12J players. They tried to speak to National Treasury not to can Section 12J. Can you see that they are, sorry, my bad. They are in experts. They are not. They are lobbyists, but it's just that in South African context, is not as extreme as in America, right? Yeah. So that's where I'm coming from to say. Remember, I'm still going back to this. So, but you're
a politician. You would make a good politician. How to go around the question and it sounds like you're working for SARS here.
No. But like the thing is, people need to understand where things comes from, so that they can be able to address them.
Yeah.
Then once you guys lobby, remember every legislation then becomes part of a framework. So a framework are there to be able to be taxed. And individuals have got specific framework. There's a framework that individuals, salaries and other incomes, and then other deductions, and then you get what you call taxable income, and then you get tax on it, right? Same as companies. So each taxpayer, the nature type of taxpayer will have their own framework. Then a trust has its own framework. Companies will have their own framework. Partnership, they've got a framework. Branches, what we call branches, in South Africa, we've got branches. It gets taxed differently, right? So now you might find that certain things are common within across, right? But then there are those framework, and I think I'm trying to answer your question. But what influences that framework is starting there. You need to lobby. Can you see where this whole thing coming from? And then it ends up.
You need to belong to a body who has the power to go in and try and change policy. Basically.
There we go. Exactly. And obviously you can't wake up and say, I don't want to pay tax, I'm gonna lobby. You're just wasting your time. So it's about what any form of changes. Like for instance, I'll give an example. Né? If people recall, I'm presuming that we're speaking to people who are making money here. So if people recall, there was people who used to immigrate, and there was this thing. Someone was saying, "I'm doing financial immigration," right? So as the world and the world becoming a village, like I said earlier, people lobbied to say, why don't we relaxes this stringent exchange control? Because it's not in our best interest as a country, right? It was cumbersome. It was administrative burden, right? And as a result, we don't see more foreign direct investment coming in because people feel that I don't have the flexibility of just waking up tomorrow and cease to be South African tax residents, which in this current system since the 1st of March has been relaxed and is much easier that you can just wake up tomorrow and fill what we call TCR 01 and then you apply to cease as tax resident. Previously, you wouldn't even have your bank account, access to your bank account once you cease to be tax resident because what we call authorized dealers, which are the likes of the banks, FNB, and the rest, they needed to do what? Do everything control and need to be seen to be control your affairs in the country. Can you see that people lobbied that such things they must cease to exist because it's not in favor of freedom of flow of capital. You know what I mean? It doesn't create that flexibility and freedom of movement, and it has been done away. You understand? But what I'm just trying to say is that you look at the framework as an individual, you look at the framework as a business owner to say, where are we? You know that the whole income statement, that's a framework. That's your framework. Then you need to look at that. And then if you're not happy with something, lobby from your association and then take it from there.
But now, okay, but if you say from lobbying side, let's try maybe bring it more to you still didn't answer what all we get taxed on.
Yeah, but I gave you a framework. I said the framework. The thing is if we're going to try to go into the nitty gritty of it will take us the next 7 years because the framework it's a lineup of items. Like I said, with individual, for instance, there will be a salary. You find this guy is getting dividend income somewhere else, is earning, he has rental properties in it. Then they'll lump everything together. Then you'll get those allowable deduction, medical aid, retirement annuity fund. What else can be there? Section 12J was there also, not, but it was at the bottom. And then what else is there with individuals? Expenses that you generated were incurred from generating those rental income. You'll be allowed to deduct those things. So it's a framework. You'll have a framework, right, for that. And then the net effect, that's what we call taxable income, then you'll be taxed on that. So that's how basically you get taxed. And then the company will have whatever nature of business that you're in. Maybe you are in social media sensation, you generate all these brands money. Then you'll have that what you call gross income, then you'll minus exempt income, then you'll minus other deductions as you go along. Maybe you spend a lot of money hiring marketing guys who understand the maximization of internet. And then that will be allowed as a deduction, then you'll get again taxable income, then you'll be taxed at that. So you know what I mean? So there's a framework. There's a framework that, but as long as you are earning income, yeah, you must disclose. Otherwise, then you are going into the hand on the side of tax evasion. Then I'm not going to be your friend.
So I think what we're getting to is what we said in the beginning is get yourself a knowledgeable power team, and one of the main people in that power team will be your accountant and your tax expert, and they'll be able to take you through, look at you where you are personally, where your income comes from, what your situation is, what your goals are, and they will set up a tax plan and tell you that these are the structures. You might need a trust, you might need a PTY, or you can do it as a sole proprietor, whatever it is. And there you can now see how you can be tax efficient. So I think that's and so that's that. So that will be number one, steps number one for whether you are an employee or whether you're an entrepreneur, business owner, is get the expert. ShillyBoy will give us his details now in a few minutes, where to get a hold of him, and then sit with him, and you can go through the individual's details or the companies and say, okay, this is what we can do here. This is how we can set it up. All right. So I think that, because I wanted to say that as an employee and as an entrepreneur, what are overall places where people can save. But you explained that to us.
Yeah, the thing is, the nature of business also don't remain the same. And
Yes.
yeah, like yeah, what transaction you get today, tomorrow might be different, and what might apply today, tomorrow might not apply. And I think, you know, things that I find that would be common that people should take also out of this is keep your records.
Mm.
And I, I know it might not, you might think that is not healthy, but think about it. If you go and incur 100,000 on some item that is supposed to be deductible, and you don't have a proof of it, how will you
Mm.
claim it?
Mm. Mm. Mm.
I mean, it's as simple as that. Keep records. Keep
We need a good
everything.
system of keeping, because it's difficult. Keeping records is not
It's
the.
not.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
not easy.
difficult thing.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Especially if you like guys like me, me, I'm a more of a out there
Yeah, but,
street guy.
yeah, but you see, that's where you need to then hire. Is if you can't afford hire, then outsource that component where
Mm.
people, you know, that you just scan. Your job is just to scan.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Your job is just to scan these things and get someone to just scan these things and you outsource them. But then it's also you are responsible to retain those documents for the next 5 years, right? So at least do that. That's the part you can do.
Mm.
And then people need to sit with the accountant down, sit with the
Yeah.
accountant, understand what's inside your transactions,
Yeah.
and understand like
Financial statement. So what?
yeah,
Why is that there? How can that change?
exactly, get involved.
What do I have
Exactly.
to, what can we do to make that less or make
Exactly,
question?
exactly.
That's my questions. I don't
No,
understand much context, but my questions are ShillyBoy. Oh, you still here? What happened there?
yeah, no,
Okay.
I'm still here. I'm listening to
Oh,
you.
sorry. My questions are simple. Okay. How can we bring the tax down? How can we legally pay less tax? Because
Yeah,
I personally do not want to pay a lot of tax. Right? I'm already paying petrol. I'm already paying VAT and everything. I'm already paying sugar, liquor, cigarettes, whatever it is you do. You're already paying tax. So why would you still want to pay so much tax?
no, but I think like again, and I'm like again, it's a matter of don't pay tax unnecessarily. Which
Necessarily.
which which I mean, what do I mean by saying that is where you are allowed by the law to claim as a deduction, do it.
Mm.
Right? You understand? Exercise your right that you are granted in the legislation. The legislation is there to say you are allowed for this, you are allowed to deduct that, you are allowed to do that. You understand?
Mm.
Then do that.
You do
That's
what you
all you
want.
need to. Yeah, do that. That's what you need to do. Yeah, yeah. The other feeling, let's put it. Let's shut.
Yeah. I
Let's.
see you. I see you don't want me to put a negative. What's the right words? Use your nice English here. No, that's good. That's good. So I think it comes. I think the message that we're getting out of this thing is get yourself a professional that understands it. And professionals like ShillyBoy and are there to save you money, because initially people look at it, I'm paying. No, you're actually saving, because let me tell you a story, quick story. My mother did payroll when we started in business. And because she was doing payroll for 3M for many years, she did her own tax return. And then she said, okay, hopefully she's not listening. Then she said, listen, I'm going to do the tax. I know she knows how to submit, how to do these things. Hey, we paid a lot of tax that year.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we paid a lot of tax. So she knew the payroll side, but she didn't. She wasn't an accountant where she could put it together and know what is deductible and depreciation and what to depreciate and all that. So we put it, and that's when I realized,
she was fired.
Cousins, they just tell you do this or this or this.
Then she was fired. Oh wow, you're such a bad person.
And then we got an accountant.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
And I think there's a good advice that ShillyBoy gave us. I think ShillyBoy, we're gonna come to the end now. It's good advice for the lady ShillyBoy. If you're going on a date, ShillyBoy said first, before you ask him what his 5-year plan is, ask the guy if he has tax problems.
Oh wow! Did I say that? Oh wow!
You said that. He said, ladies, when you go on a date, first thing you want to ask the guy is if he has tax problems. That means he's doing something. He's making money.
Gents, I didn't say that. Like LeRoy is putting words in my mouth.
Yeah, you said that.
Oh wow! But ladies, if I score points, yes. Now, yeah, I said it. But gents, if so you get what I mean? Like, I'm in the middle with that. So
I think before let me just see what Steven says here. ShillyBoy, he says, I'm putting it on the screen here. Where is it now? He said it's very intriguing subject and very broad. Yeah, I think we can go on for days. Yes. Zendile says, insightful as a student bookkeeper. I'm finding this very educational. Thanks, Zendile. David Foster says, tax compliance for entrepreneurs also unlocks access to SME funding.
That's true.
Applications for tenders, registrations to government, central supplies to database. Very true, very true, eh?
That's true. That's true.
Get your tax clearances and all of that. So if you're not compliant, it's difficult to get in all those spaces there.
That's true.
So yeah, I think that. So ShillyBoy, maybe if you have last words on tax, I think we've almost eaten our time flies, eh? And then just tell us where do we get a hold of you, contact details, social media handles, emails, if someone wants to get a hold of you and use your services.
Yeah, look, my name, I mean, I've got the public number that people WhatsApp me. It's 074 589 6439. 074 589 6439. Right? That's a WhatsApp number that easy to get a hold of me. It's a public number, so yeah, everyone has access to it. And I'm mainly on Facebook on ShillyBoy Mothiba, or like S is spelled. You can find me there. And then it's also YouTube. I'm big on YouTube. It's also ShillyBoy Mothiba. So you are more than welcome to search me there. You'll find me there. And
there's a channel where you share information on different.
Different
you share weekly, eh?
It is, man. Every day.
Every day,
like I've got content every day because I've got the content every day. I'm live on Tuesday 7 p.m. So people can reach out. I mean, send me WhatsApp, then it's easier. Then I can always share the links. I enjoy my like I said, I found an art around the subject matter. So it's about performance for me. So it's a theater performance for me right now. So I think we're just having fun.
Yeah, no, thank you, ShillyBoy. I want to ask, maybe just send me a WhatsApp with the links, and then what I'll do is I'll push it in the comment section.
Okay. So what I'll do, let me just quickly do that. You want the
YouTube, the Facebook, the WhatsApp number. Maybe there's another number that you also anything else where we can follow you on, and then I'll just copy and paste it and put it in the comment section, and then whoever wants to get a hold of you, they've got it there.
Okay, let's do this.
More people will listen to this afterwards than the people that are live now.
Okay, I sent you the WhatsApp one. What is this? I sent
YouTube.
The YouTube, and then I'm sending you. I'm trying to send you the where I'm live. The property roundtable. Let's because I'm there every Tuesday at 7. Just hold on for me. My apologies for taking long. But I mean, I could be telling you a lot of things, but just want to quickly share.
That's why I think it's better if people follow you so they can get this daily, get it weekly. And
especially YouTube, because
we just summarized one, we can give it an overview, so it'll be nice to get more details.
Yeah, I sent you the YouTube link. I sent you the Property Wealth Roundtable space where I have fun there. I perform every Tuesday. And then I send you my WhatsApp number. And yeah, I perform with my guy called Brooke Bakhasen. He's an attorney notary. Yeah, we talk law, tax, and we make it fun because, like you said, you guys say it's boring, complicated, but fun enough. It's actually fun. It's very interesting. It's very mentally stimulating. So let's go and have
you
fun.
made me enjoy listening to you speak, listening to your things. That's when I started. It's fun. It's fun. You make it fun learning about tax and these structures and business
and I'll encourage you, ne? And there's currently going on. There was what you call the OECD and the G20s and the power heads of G7, right? The global countries, the top 7, and all those things, right? Once you start following those political dynamics, you'll start to realize actually tax is political. And then I think this is where now the fun part also start to start to come in, how the big multinational and companies lobby the politicians and how the politicians protect their tax bases, and it's fun. And I think this is where you start to, once you understand tax, where it's coming from, you'll understand that it's actually politics, and it's more than that's when it becomes an art. Then you start to see the art around it, and you'll enjoy it. So out of interest, I mean, people can follow that just to look at the art of it, and they'll find it nice.
And I think another thing that I got from this conversation with you is it's a change of mindset or how you look at things, eh? Because now we were looking at it, as you said, that the government's there to punish you, SARS there to punish you. Now you're negative, you're stressed, you hate them. It's a negative emotion. Now if you start seeing, okay, it's actually there to assist me if we partner, and it's actually fun, and the more you learn, the more you can move things around, and it opens up a whole new world for you.
Yes, exactly. And I like that. I like what you're saying, because it's an eye opener that the world is so big. It's you can do so much through understanding it. You understand? You can move things around. And by the way, it's not constant because it changes. Like nothing changes. Yeah, it changes. It like literally changes every day. So you need to be up to date, and as the politics changes, it changes. So those are dynamics. But anyway, thank you so much. And
thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. God bless you. Thank you for your time. I'll put your details in there. If there's anyone that wants, I'll send them your details. And then man, maybe come join us in a few months or 2 or 3, whenever you have time again, and maybe we can talk about something specific, like maybe just property or something in detail, something where we can touch on.
Exactly. I'm here with that. Yeah, I think let's pick a topic and come back maybe in the next time.
Let's pick a topic and we come back whenever you have time again. God bless you. Thank you so much, ShillyBoy. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Be safe.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Yes, bye.